Anytime. All right. Okay, well, grand. Here we are, back at the desk. And we are welcoming, first off tonight, Jim Zagroy of the Information Technology Department. And we're going to look at his budget. So, let me just beam that up quickly and get to it. The stunning part about this budget is the increase in the contracts, and we'll go right to that. That's probably the first question we might ask Jim to talk about. Let me pull this up first. So, anybody can see anything here, but so as you know, this year we wanted to segregate and identify contracts so that they wouldn't get mixed in with general expenses, and we could identify them and protect them from any leveling or cuts, because they're essential to the ongoing operation of any department that has one of these contracts for outside services. And I think that's especially true for your department, Jim. But it was a shock to see, now that we've actually identified it, to see it going from 130. See if this works. Oh, this is a horrible. Okay. This is a PDF. We are now getting all our budgets in Excel format so that they will replicate better and project better. I should have gone back and gotten this one in Excel, but at any rate. So the contracts you have gone from 130,000 in actual expense in 14 to 154 budgeted for 15, and now we're looking at 200,000 for 16. So I guess those big question is what's going on? How did that happen? And I don't know. Do you want to take it away and tell us about what you guys are doing in general and what's maybe changed? And obviously this is one of the outcomes of those changes. So why don't you
Well, our department
take it?
is very heavy with obviously servers, equipment, software, and the need to back it up and to make sure we have a proper disaster recovery in place in the event of a catastrophic, failure of the system. So, well, let me just start with, basically the different types of contracts that we do have. We have the contract for the town software. That includes the modules for what we call DN Windows, Fundware, and Zobrio. And every year there's always a slight increase in the cost of maintaining these modules. The other major contract that we have is for the Cisco Voice over IP phone system, and that is a very intense system that we have put in place 2 years ago. It's all server-driven. It's much more complicated than the one that we replaced. The other major contract that we have is with our network provider, Global Data Systems, and that encompasses monitoring servers, antivirus, firewall, system patching, email archiving, and of course the backup. So when you put all of these components together, the biggest impact this year was the backup. We were on a, when we, 3 years ago, we virtualized our server environment, and as part of that, that upgrade, we had the backup included in that one-time cost, and we had the archiving included in that one-time cost. So now we're coming due on the end of that contract, so now we have to pick up the cost of the archiving and the cost of the backup, which is local and off-site to a cloud. So that accounts for a good chunk of it. Because we have so much data that we're feeding into our system, we had to increase the amount of storage that we have available. We went from what's referred to as a 2 terabyte system up to a 4 terabyte system to accommodate all this data. And with the 4 terabyte, we should be set for, a while, but it came with a cost. That additional data is how they package the pricing on it. So, like I said, come June 30th, we'll be switching into this, picking up the new contract for the backup and for the archiving of emails. So if you have any questions regarding that,
Yeah, so I was kind of hoping you might be able to give us a bit more of a dollar breakdown, because you're talking about 3 groupings of contracts. I don't know how many within each group, or if it's just one contract that covers the whole voice-over system, and one contract with global data systems, and one contract.
they're all different. They're all, like, for example, well, our salary obligations, we have my assistant as a step increase, so that accounts for the.
No, I'm talking, let's focus on I want to focus on the jump from 154,000 to 201,000.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's what I want to focus on, because
Yep.
that's to me is the jump that needs the most
Sure.
explanation.
Okay.
Because it's a contract, we have to pay for it. I don't know how, I presume when you sign these contracts, you're aware of the increase in cost. And for each one, and then, when you add them up cumulatively, it's quite a whopping increase. So I'm wondering where that increase is coming from. Is it coming from your global data systems? Is it coming from your voice-over system? Or is it coming from Fundware and Zobrio, which all of these things have been established for a year or two, and to see that kind of a jump is surprising, because you didn't add new systems, to my knowledge.
Right, but like I just mentioned,
So-
the backup and the archiving were on a 3-year agreement when we put the system in. So now those 2 products are rolling into a new contract. The backup,
So
the daily backup.
So we're not talking about
If-
software per se, software maintenance per se. We're talking about backing the whole system.
The whole
back
system up.
Okay.
The daily work, everybody out there throughout our network, every town department, they're generating their daily work. That gets backed up on a daily basis, on-site in this building. Then it's taken off-site to a cloud location. So
Okay.
you've got the redundant.
Sure, no,
Storage.
and that's necessary. And this is a new contract?
No, it's an existing contract, but we had it for 3 years under the initial purchase when we put the virtual server environment in. We went.
Oh, so the contract from 3 years ago included.
Included this.
Okay, this
So it was
this happens
prepaid.
over and over when we buy something new. Nobody says, oh yeah, 3 years from now, we have to make sure that we've got an extra $60,000 to cover
Correct.
the maintenance contract, which is free for the first 3 years, okay, as part of the purchase agreement. So what is the cost of this new piece for backup that just kicked in?
It basically comes out to around $34,000 when you add the 2 components together.
Okay, so that would,
The local backup, the off-site, and the device itself, the physical hardware that it gets stored on in this building.
Okay, so that's 34,000 of that,
Of that 50.
of that 45,
Of the
46,000.
46, yeah,
Okay. So that knocks, the rest of it down to an 11,000 increase
Right, and
on
that would-
154, which is about 8%. Is that,
and that would be,
That's for
that would be
renewals.
all the other
others?
products
Okay.
that go up on a regular basis. Another big increase this year was the Cisco voice over IP phone system. That took a big jump because, again, there were a lot of components that were put in place that were under manufacturer warranty. And
Okay.
as those warranties expire, we now have to absorb the maintenance.
And do you have a handle on how much that?
That was
Portion was?
roughly around $6,000 from last year.
Okay.
There are two major servers in this new system. One's located here, and another one's located at our head-end building, our head-end down at the Pierce Middle School. So those two servers, they need to be covered. They came off of warranty, manufacturer warranty, software that runs on them. So basically, if you don't have these items under warranty, if something goes wrong with them, then they need to reinstall software on a new system. You wouldn't be covered. So everything is hardware and software is covered under these contracts.
So I guess, so basically $40,000 of coverage came online for products that were previously warranted.
Correct.
Okay. And if you knock that 40,000 out, now you're looking at about 6,000 on top of 154, which is a pretty reasonable percentage
And then
increase for
we,
just turnover.
in the past, we've been absorbing that in our general.
I understand. And it was playing havoc with your budget,
Mhm.
and you weren't able to buy new equipment.
Correct.
So this came along at just the right time, right? This policy. Steve, please.
A few questions, Jim. The warranty coverage that you now have,
Mhm.
we're paying for separately, is that a year-to-year or is that a multi-year contract?
They're an annual contract.
Annual contract
Mhm.
is, so there's no set escalator that you know of that could go up 10,000 or 30,000 in 1 year for next year?
I don't anticipate it. No, I think this year was the big hit with the phone system
Yeah.
and with the backup.
So are they gonna stay the same?
They should, once we plateau at this level, we should, other than the normal, increases, because nothing has stayed constant.
Okay.
They've all gone up.
Okay,
a
and
percentage each
any
year.
other pieces of equipment that may, over the course of this year, hit the end of their manufacturer's warranty and will get whacked another?
I don't believe so. I think we've reached all of the manufacturer's warranties
Is that
expiring.
something that you could just double back and then let us know?
Sure, sure.
Great, great.
I
No,
was
that's-
very surprised with the phone, because what ended up happening with that is when they were installing it, everything kicked in. Yeah, I thought it was gonna kick in all at the same time, but it was when they installed it, that they registered with Cisco. So each component had a different end date for the manufacturer's warranty.
But the whole
so-
system was
The whole
installed
system was
within about
installed
a year.
over several months. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so now they've all come off their warranty
Correct.
and they've all hit
Correct.
the books. Okay.
And I'm covering the major components. I mean, if we were to cover every single phone component, it would just go through the roof. I mean, if you went down to the individual telephones, to every small little device.
Right.
But there are certain components that I look at and I'm like, that's not gonna be problematic. If in fact it is, we can buy that or pay for that as it happens. But the major components, the servers, the switches, and the routers, those are all under contract. As a matter of fact, we had one device fail about 2 or 3 months ago. It was a 48 port switch, and we were noticing that it was rebooting itself on every few weeks. All of a sudden, the phone system in this building would go down, and it's like, why is it going down? And then it would reboot itself and come back online. So to play it safe, we contacted the vendor. They suggested contacting Cisco, they sent us a new switch. And the way this procedure works is the switch comes out, they want that old switch back within, I don't know, 10 days. So I'm like, I can't get that switch back to you that quick because I have to get the vendor, Presidio, to come out, reprogram the switch. But the switch itself was a $13,000 component. So they shipped me a new switch, the company came out, reprogrammed it, and that other switch went back. But if we didn't have it under contract, now you're looking at a $13,000 component, plus the cost of the company to come out and reprogram it. So that's where the contract comes into play.
So this, the total sum of contracts covers hardware that's worth, for initial purchase, costs, how much, roughly? Any idea?
Well, the phone system that we installed here was close to $300,000.
Okay.
So, I mean, you were looking at servers, switches, routers, probably $250,000 of it was hardware, and then the rest of it was the install cost. But there was a significant amount of hardware that was purchased. And the same thing for a virtual server environment. When we put that into place, that was a big chunk of change.
Okay, so I'm just, is there any sort of rule of thumb in this industry? And if you have $200,000 worth of equipment, probably your contracts are going to run $50,000 a year, or
Well, a lot of them.
something like that. I mean, how does this work?
A lot of them, it's driven by licensing. In the case of the phone system, you've got voicemail licenses that come into play. So for every person that has a voice mailbox, there's a license. And they charge based on those licenses. On the hardware end of it, there's licensing on the servers. So it's not only you're dealing with hardware, you're dealing with the software part of it too.
Okay,
So if you had a major disaster and they had to reinstall all of this, it's based on the amount of licenses that you have. And I believe we have like 100 and, written down here. I want to say 120 phones. I have 139 phones that are out in every town department.
Does that include the school system? No.
And there are different types of phones out in the field. There's 2-button phones, there's 6-button phones. The police dispatch, they have 6-button phones with a sidecar that they can have all their additional lines that they need to contact people. Fire department, the same thing, they have a sidecar. So each one has a different level on it.
So, if we look at your budget, is there any way you can say, okay, the police department with their fancy phones, they cost me this much, the fire department cost me this much?
Not really, because,
Not really.
I mean, to replace the phone, that phone might be just a little bit more money, but, to start segregating it out and say, well, this department costs this and this department, I mean, it sort of defeats the purpose of trying to consolidate everything into technology.
Okay, but some departments clearly use more technology than others.
Than others, right.
Okay.
And, I mean, that's the case, too, for the storage. There are certain departments that put more data into the system. I mean, the GIS creates a lot of data. The AutoCAD creates a lot of data mapping. Police data, incidents that go into the system on a daily basis. All of this flows in and has to get backed up.
But it was probably the mapping and the GIS that drove you to the need for doubling the storage.
The storage, yeah, because you reach a certain level, and it's like, okay, now you have to start saying, am I going to decrease the amount of days that you have your data available?
Uh-huh.
So that's how it kind of plays out. So if you want to keep your data longer, then you're going to need the bigger amount of storage.
Okay.
And then when it goes off-site, too.
I got questions from Darnell, but how long are we keeping data now?
I believe it's 7 days. And then off-site, the same amount of data goes off-site as well.
Okay. Doesn't seem like a very long time.
Well, again, I mean,
Right.
you could move up to another device and extend that period of time.
Okay.
You reach a certain point where it will start overwriting the data. So it depends on how long you want to extend the life of it. We've found that, you know, the way we have it set right now, it works out pretty well for retrieving data. The few times that we do have to go back, people will, from different departments will say, hey, I just lost a file, or I noticed this disappeared, or whatever. So this will go in, restore it, and we're good, they're good to go. But if somebody, you know, down the line said, you know, geez, I misplaced a file, and it was created, say, a year ago, chances are that that might not be there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So,
Darnell?
Yeah, we was talking about this data because we had spoke about that here, and speaking with Jim about it, it's tough, man. Because he was telling about the breaks for that data was 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes, no in betweens. And we had spoke about that, no in betweens, and I was like surprised that there was just no in betweens on it. And 7 days storage for backups. That's data's a premium in the marketplace right now, and that's short. That's quick turnaround. And now, and actually, I did have a question for Jim that I didn't, because of a short period of time. Do we have any data that we're required to keep for longer than that we might have to back up separately somewhere else or store somewhere else that we know of?
well, the data is there. It's just that as you keep adding new data to it,
Right.
that's where you've got your turnover time. That it could be
Offload,
overwritten.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing that comes into play here too is, I mean, we support all the town departments, and we've just taken on the library as far as bringing their servers into the virtual environment. So that's some additional data that we've brought into the system as well. Their servers were needing to be replaced. Because when the library was built, I believe it was 6 years ago, all of their equipment was purchased at that time. So servers needed to be replaced, patron computers needed to be replaced, and the staff computers need to be replaced. So they were confronted with needing to replace 2 servers over there. Where we have the virtual environment here, we figured it was easier to just consolidate that, bring it over into our environment. So that saved them having to physically buy a box and put it over at the library building.
Which wasn't in their budget anyway, because it was replacing the original stuff that came with the building. So, okay.
So,
All right. And accommodating the library cost you space on a system that you had to
space,
buy
but
anyway.
not that much. They're not that intense as far as, you know, data on the system. If you were to break it down, it would be GIS, the mapping, all of that type of software eats up a lot of the storage. Next would be police, and then town. Well, town hall would probably be second. Police would be third, and fire. They store their data in a database.
So, I'm a little confused about this 7-day window of retention for data. If the central business office, you know, closes fiscal year 14 and doesn't do any more work on it, and those files are stashed away, they don't disappear in 7 days.
No, they're there. All the data is still there. It's just how much you can take and put off-site and have available to you to bring back if you need to restore it.
So if I, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, yeah, Jim, I just want to clarify some stuff about this data. So we're paying $34,000 because we went from 2 terabytes of data storage to 4.
Well, no, we were paying in that 3-year contract for this same system.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2 terabytes
And then
of
we
data
went to-
storage would
we
have
went to
cost us how much?
4 terabytes. It was in the $20,000 range.
And we had to spend an extra 14,000 in the 4.
To jump it up to the 4 terabytes.
Okay,
Just
so
to give us that extra,
we probably have, like, right now, we're backing up less than 2 terabytes of data.
a little over 2.
We went over the
Over
2.
2.
Okay.
Yep.
So of that 2, a lot of it's maps and GIS files.
It's everything. It's all the files from the town side software. It's the GIS, it's the AutoCAD. It's
Okay.
it's everything.
So you've looked at what's taken up the most space. Is there a records retention policy that the town has? In other words, the 2014 financial data is still going to be in the 7 days data, but at some point, is the 2001 financial data still there?
Everything will be there.
Is the
yes.
1995 financial data still there?
We didn't go back that far. I mean.
That's what I'm at.
Yeah.
How far back do you go to keep it?
We've gone back to, let me see here. To replace the system, which we just did when we went to the virtual environment, all of the data from day one was there and ported over. So
Okay, so my question
it's
is-
there.
So, is there a policy at some point in time to say, well, we don't need this data anymore?
To archive.
Right, it goes off to
Yep.
Iron Mountain or whatever, but it
Yep.
doesn't, you're not backing it up every night,
Right.
because, so
It's-
what's the,
That's the other thing with the backup. Certain things you're not gonna back up. If you know that this file is not gonna change, then there's no need to continuously back it up night after night after night after night.
right, you have a flag set that this
Right.
file has no change.
So if there's a change, you back it up.
But even so, my question is at what point do you stop reserving space on a file? You say it's gonna be a permanent archive, no one's ever gonna, if they want this thing, they're gonna have to go, to the Iron Mountain to
Dig
get
it
it,
out.
and not on the cloud, or,
Mhm.
do you have a policy to?
We really haven't reached that point yet, because, we have enough storage in the system that it will be there.
Okay. I work for a big health insurance company.
Mhm.
They just put out a policy that said, we're keeping email for 2 years,
Right.
and after 2 years, it's gone.
Mhm.
So, I don't know how much of your stuff
We
is
have-
email, but
Yeah,
that would
we
maybe
have-
save you some space.
we have the capacity to store 250 gigs of email data. And that
What
would
does that
take us-
mean? What does that mean? A year's worth? A 2
Probably
10
three.
years worth?
3, that's what we're kind of shooting for, is a 3-year window.
Uh-huh.
So 3 years you're gonna keep.
Just,
Then eventually, it gets overwritten.
Okay.
You can save stuff for as long as you want, it's just how much do you want to invest in the hardware to store it? Is what it basically boils down to.
Except that now we're storing it in the cloud. Is that right?
Both places,
Both places.
Local. There's a device upstairs, right in the rack with our servers, that
Okay.
every day, the changes that are made to the data go into that system, and then on a pre-programmed basis, it's sent off-site. So if that,
Strictly backup,
backup.
right.
So if that device failed,
Then you could go,
go to the company, and they would retrieve it off of their cloud for us.
So can I just, the final question is,
Please.
so there's no way, Jim, we could have saved $14,000 by doing a records or a purge and getting under the
No.
2 terabytes?
No, because you just keep, you're adding that data to it
No
on a
further
daily basis.
questions.
okay. So, Phil, please.
Jim, based upon your current usage, how quickly are you gonna use up the 2 new terabytes?
We should be good for several years down the road. This isn't something that now we're gonna jump to well, the next level would be 6. It's the way that it goes. It's like, you just don't add small components. The way they sell it is 2, 4, then the next jump would be 6.
Are the incremental terabytes the same cost?
Basically, yeah, so, whatever you can, the device, what they do is they give you a new device. So in other words, the device is sort of part of the deal, so you'll get a new device that has the bigger capacity. And then you offset that with how much you're gonna send off-site as well.
Now, since the GIS and the AutoCAD is doing a lot of this storage increase, do we need to look at different rules for how much of that we keep?
Well,
And how long we keep it?
it's-
Because that's really data-intensive stuff,
Yeah, the mapping.
yeah.
And plus a lot of it too, a lot of departments wanna scan data. So, I mean,
Do you
and that's
have any
great.
policies on that,
That's
on
great.
scanning data?
Not policies as far as what you can scan,
Yeah,
not really. I mean, if some department came to us and said, hey, we wanna take the whole archive room here and scan it, then we'd have to say, well, that's.
so you'd run to us then and say, we're gonna blow the budget. See, that's our problem as a financial committee, is that there are certain uses of your services that are very valuable and very
Right.
important that happen below the radar
Mhm.
and affect the budget that we're gonna see at a future date without any forewarning to us that that's happening. And there don't seem to be any rules in place for preventing that from happening. Because someone comes to you with a request, your job is to do your job and help the departments do it.
Well, I think a
But
lot
I
of
don't
people.
think people are aware of the costs associated necessarily with the request they're making.
I was just gonna say that everyone is like, oh, great, we can take all of this paper, scan it in, I can rip this up, I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
But it comes with a cost.
Maybe we need to do an educational effort somehow, I don't know how we
I
would
mean,
do
if
it.
you're never gonna need this data,
Yeah,
is there a reason to scan it into this, other than saying it's scanned into the system?
yeah.
That's, I think, what it boils down to.
Darnell?
That's it. Jim, I want to caution you on one thing is that 2 terabytes, it's one project away from probably being gone. So, so when you say it either should last us for quite a few years, it's one new project away from being gone, similar to the mapping project that expanded.
Well,
into
based
GIS.
on the, what we're
Current
putting
usage,
into the
yes,
system now.
current usage, yeah. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, because we.
I think the initial hit was, when we started computerizing.
Rising,
That all this data was going into the system. Now it's just that
It's the piling of the thing, yeah.
piling it about, moving forward with it.
Because that's how it happens all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody else gets a great idea, just like you're saying, and then all of a sudden it's like,
Well,
where did this come from?
the other thing that eats up a lot is if you're gonna stream video and you wanna save video.
There you go. It's like
And,
we're gonna record all of our interrogations, or we're gonna record all
Well,
our,
exactly.
we record all our calls now coming in and backing those up. Great idea, but once it goes and you're saving those digitally, it's like they just suck up space, and all of a sudden you're not talking
that's-
6 terabytes, you're
I mean,
talking
that's
whatever.
that's a trade-off with all this stuff that,
Yeah.
okay, if you're gonna need it down the line, obviously now you need to save it.
Right, and
And it has to go somewhere, and you can't save it without having it be stored, so if there was a disaster, you need to retrieve it.
right, or somebody starts to make them requirements. State comes out now, we required you to store this stuff for X amount of period of time.
Mhm.
It changes the whole spectrum. So I say, at current usage, we expect to be at this. I caution those words to be added there.
But I don't anticipate any department hitting us with a big load of data. I think we've sort of plateaued, so now it's just the daily work that gets into the system.
So I did notice that one of your machines upstairs, I think in the selectman's office, scans things at a gargantuan level. And I don't know if you can reset that, or if
Oh, I
there's a
think-
switch that can be flipped.
I think you're referring to, that it gets scanned to a PDF that
Right.
gets sent to, I believe, there's the selectmen, they get their agendas.
Yeah, or these budgets, if, I'm gonna get them all now on Excel. But a lot of these budgets were scanned in that office and they come through huge. So, are people using giant settings for everyday type stuff?
I don't think they're using anything that's out of the ordinary. They're not, you know.
Well, this is out of the ordinary. I don't need archival quality,
Right.
you know, PDFs for, which aren't very high quality anyway.
Yeah.
So the defects are in great detail. So I want to ask you a couple more questions about your general expenses. You list software support and equipment maintenance. And those things sound like contracts to me, but they're not, I take it.
Which ones are these now you're referring to?
In your general expenses,
Mm-hmm.
you have supplies, software support, equipment maintenance. And software support and equipment maintenance, there are no contracts involved in any of those?
Those are what I pulled those contracts out of. Like software support, that would be your Funware, your Zobrio, your DN Windows. Equipment, networking would be all of the global data part of it. The,
Okay, we're talking $2,000. It says software support, $2,000.
that's after taking out the contractual amount.
Okay, so this is $2,000 just in case,
Of any unforeseen issues that would crop up, that, you know,
Okay.
you might need to buy a small software product, that somebody might need a
patch of something.
license for Adobe or something like that.
and then on the equipment maintenance,
Equipment maintenance,
there's no contract in there. This is just as it,
no, that would
as you
be,
need it.
that would
Okay.
be if, you know, if a computer broke. And short of replacing it, if we needed to, say, buy a hard drive for it, or we needed to do some repairs on a printer, that's what we would take out of that category.
Okay. So
But as
stuff-
far as the networking, all of the numbers that you see, the 201, 455, that was taken out of those categories
Right.
for the contracts.
Okay, so these are incidental expenses
Right.
above and beyond the
But, yeah.
contracts for stuff that's generally too
I mean,
old or
networking,
too
if
cheap
for
to bother
yeah,
covering.
Well, networking, if you had some issues with the network and you needed to replace a switch here or a wireless device or whatever, that's what would pay for that category.
And so the other big line item is equipment. And obviously you have to keep all the equipment
Mhm.
up to snuff. And you have about 400 pieces of it, so
I mean, essentially, that's our operation.
Right.
Is taking all the equipment we have that forms our infrastructure, making sure that that's covered, and then replacing the equipment that the employees use on a day-to-day basis to do their job.
right,
And
keeping it up.
for them to perform their job efficiently and effectively, they need new equipment. Because as softwares change and different things change, the speed is affected on the computers, so you need to keep pace with it. You can't like leave a computer for like 10 years on somebody's desk and expect them to perform the same functions on it at the same speed. It's just gonna be very slow, and that's.
Of course. The $61,000 you have here under level service, then
Mhm.
I would presume that's sufficient to replace
Well, last
The
year,
items that need to
last
be
year, our
replaced.
goal was to replace all of the old systems that we had out there that were XP, which
Okay.
we did.
Right?
Short of a few systems that are not really critical, that are not used for day-to-day, data storage and whatever. Like the laptops that the selectmen use, those are a Windows XP, but all they use that for is to bring up their PDFs, and so it's not a critical replacement. But for the units that are in the field.
Sure, they'll be
replaced
happy to
all
hear
of
that they're not critical.
Well, they're not critical in the sense that all you're doing is you're bringing up a document on it.
Okay. So this, is there a particular goal this year for the 61,000, or is that just what you figure you need to replace the stuff that's the
Well,
oldest?
it's not just the PCs, it's printers, as printers fail. Switches that might need to be replaced, phones that might need to be replaced. Anything out in the field that would need to be replaced. In the corner there, that's the wireless router up there. If that failed, obviously we'd have to, replace that. Those run about $500 a piece.
Oh,
So Jim, then your difference obviously between your level dollar and level service is just you'll have less capacity to
replace
replace
hardware.
things
Yep.
as the year progresses.
So what you're doing is you're trying to extend the life of certain hardware, but eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Right.
Because instead of replacing 30, now if you're not funded for it,
Get the
that's going to be
budget.
deferred. So, it's pay me now or pay me later,
Okay.
so to speak.
Is the town experiencing any savings at all by moving to smaller units rather than chunky laptops or desktop units?
We've been purchasing the average price of a system about $655 to $750 for the PC itself. Then on top of that, we put Office Professional on it,
Okay.
which contains your Office, your Word, your Outlook,
Sure.
that Access. So that brings the cost of the computer up to about $1,100. What we've been trying to do now is we've put a few units out in the field with solid-state drives for the speed.
Yep.
So, and people have been impressed with it. They're like, oh, wow, it's like, bang, we get our data that quickly. That's about $100 more a unit to go from the regular drive to a solid-state drive. And then increasing the memory on all the computers. We went from 2 gigabytes of memory to 4 gigabytes, so now we're up to 8 gigabytes. Because of what people are actually doing on their local computers, they need that processing power. So that's why you can't stay stagnant with the equipment. You have to keep turning it over.
So is the $61,000, if that was held, level or plus 2% or 3% or 4% a year over the next 3 years, do you have all the equipment replaced? Is it a 5-year cycle?
Hopefully over a
What do you
3 to
think?
4 year period, everyone will have their equipment replaced. That's the goal.
And that's achievable at the $61,000 level as opposed to
I think we could do
47?
that. Well, yeah, anything less than that, then you're running into extending the life of a computer maybe two more years, say. But then you're going to increase your maintenance cost, because now if it breaks, you can't
Sure.
replace it. You're going to have to see what you can do to make it functional again.
And in the past, your equipment budget has suffered. I know we boosted it last year by...
25, I believe.
Well, your general expenses by 25. I think 15 of that was to get your equipment line back
Mhm.
up. So it was just, I know you had asked for 25, but it was just, and there it is, another 10,000 for this year. That's the difference.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's like, it's hard when somebody, comes into the office and they're like, my computer is running so slow, I can't do what I need to do on a daily basis. And it's frustrating. And it's like, you'd like to say, okay, we have a brand-new computer, but sometimes we can't. we have to sort of make do, either, run through scans or, try to, pick the speed up. That's what I say, if you don't replace these on a timely basis, that's what you run into. You're gonna have a lot of units out there that are gonna, be problematic. And when people are trying to do, they've got customers at the counter, they gotta process, bills and whatever, you need equipment that's gonna perform the way you want it to.
Right.
And that's all we've been trying to do, is keep all of the equipment up to standard.
Seems like a great, reasonable goal, absolutely. Phil?
Jim, we know that the selectmen have put together a 5-year budget. We haven't seen it yet.
Mhm.
But presumably you provided them some information on your budget 5 years out. When you looked at it, were you shocked by how much it's gonna grow in the next 5 years?
Well, yeah, because, we took the big increase when we went from servers to the virtual environment.
Yeah.
But I think we're pretty good now with what we have in place. From what I've, the vendor that I'm dealing with that installed it, they're pretty confident that we're set for several years down the line. Other than tweaking it a little bit and replacing components, we're in a good position with what we have. And then it's just, like I said, keeping the equipment current on the desktops.
You don't happen to recall where your budget looks like 5 years down the road?
Not off the top of my head, I don't. Yeah.
So, one thing we usually ask you, any department comes along, is if we had a small amount of one-time funds available. Do you have any requests?
My only request would be in the hardware category, that I would like to, have enough there to replace enough units, so at the end of the 3 to 4 year cycle of these machines, we're new. We don't have anybody out there that has an old computer. I mean, in the past, we've tried to pass computers along, so to speak. And to be honest, it's really not fair to the employee to give somebody an old piece of equipment that somebody else had. It's we do it for countertops. We've had a lot of requests. Departments want to put computers on their counter now to deal with the public. They don't need the processing or the computing power that the employees need. So we repurpose the computers for that, and that's fine. But to pass a computer on, say, to you or you that somebody else has had for 3 years, I mean, it.
I don't know, how long did Trish have Julia's computer?
I'd lift it up if I could lift it. It's too heavy to pick up.
Yeah, been a while, anyway.
It's just
So you
the
need to get in
nature of
line.
the industry that everything changes, and you have to keep current with the hardware.
Don't know.
What level processor are we putting in those systems right now? So we going with the Intel? Are we going to i5 or i5 or better? Or what?
i5s on most of them. Yep. And we've been using HPs. We were with Dells, but we transitioned to HP, so there's 99% of them out there are HPs now. And we've had good luck with them. And we buy all of the equipment off of the state pricing. So.
Okay. I think it'd be great if you could give us a list for the future of what the contracts are that you have
Mm-hmm.
with a attendant dollar amount.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That would be a good resource for the
Okay. So you,
committee and for future iterations. So.
like I said, once we reach this amount that we're requesting this year, it should be pretty accurate. Other than say next year, just the normal increases. There shouldn't be a big leap like this year.
So I'm not sure I want to open up this can of worms, but in terms of signing for contracts that will affect a budget that hasn't been funded or approved, how does that work? Do you go to the town administrator and say, look, I've got to sign a contract for the future here. I don't know if my budget will be approved to cover it. What do you do?
Well, so far we've been able to cover it within our general expenses.
Right, but not this year, you wouldn't.
This,
have been able
this, well, this year, if,
Joe.
if, we would have,
And these contracts are signed, we've got to cover them, and I'm
Right.
glad we changed our policy on
but
it.
if, say if I had the same amount of money as last year, I'd have, I don't know, what, $15,000 for the whole year in general?
Right.
To replace equipment, to do the break and fix, and, I mean, you'd really, you know, be strapped,
Right,
if you had to absorb it.
right. Right. Well, good, great. Does anybody have any more questions for Jim?
I think
Thank you.
we had, in the early discussion, have you got a detailed list of the equipment and inventory, everything tagged?
As far as what,
All the
physical-
machines?
Yeah, we do. We, I actually have, I listed it out myself here tonight, so I would have it as far as identification, but we.
Well, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, right here. We actually were able to inventory it through a piece of software
Mhm.
that will keep track of it. So it's not just out there randomly.
Right, you'll know
Yep.
the age of the
Yep.
fleet or whatever,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Good.
So you could forward that along with the contracts?
Yeah.
That would be great.
I will do that. But yeah, like I say, I came up with this chart here, and I was surprised when I started adding up all the numbers, how many individual devices come under our domain here.
How many?
431 I came up with.
Wow.
That's switches, routers, phones, wireless devices, servers. Servers not in the conventional box in our virtual environment.
Yep.
There's 14 servers that are living in that environment. And that went up too because of the library.
Right.
And the other thing, I don't know whether, I think I'd mentioned it to you, Ted, was the servicing that the library, the coverage on their PCs, their antivirus, they take care of that now on their own for 25 units.
Okay,
So if that was to come over into IT, it would just be consumed in our networking component part of the software. I don't know if that makes sense.
well, that's a good question.
Does that include the computers available for the public use? of the
No,
library?
that's just for the staff. I
What
believe.
do they do with the public
The
computers?
public computers, they don't have the same type of, they do it manually, like the updating and what have you. The 25 computers that they have for staff, they're paying for, like we are on our side, antivirus, desktop support, patching, which I believe comes out to about $6,000 is what Will is budgeted for on his side.
But they must put antivirus software on the public ones as well, don't they?
I think they're putting like Microsoft Essentials,
Okay.
that type of.
Yeah.
There's a different system that they do for those computers.
I mean, can you get a better deal?
As
The
what, as far as
library's
adding
getting?
25 more onto the, no, not really.
No, okay, so there's.
It would
so
be the
there's
same
no-
exact coverage, it would be just taking 25 computers and bringing 25 computers more into our environment.
So can you tell us how much that adds to your budget and how much we should be
It
saving in
was-
the library budget?
Yeah,
But it hasn't happened yet.
I have it here. I think it was close to $6,000
You just mentioned 6,000 in the library.
in the library, yep.
Well, I'd say leave it in the library budget. You know, at least certainly for this year. I don't think there's any advantage in
Yeah,
switching
here it is,
to
here it is
software.
right here. It's, they're paying for antivirus server support. With, the reason that we did this is because they're open weekends, evenings, so if they needed support off hours, they're covered. So they've got server remote remediation, network device, and firewall, which totals $59.40, I believe is what they're paying. So that's exactly what we're, the same categories we have on our side. So if you took that amount of money, brought it onto our side, And then we would just add these 25 computers to our, if that makes sense.
Bill?
Of course, that will make it a little bit more difficult for the library to meet the state minimum standard in order to get their grants, if they're gonna take 6,000 out of the budget and offload it on another budget.
I don't think we have any problem meeting
We've had
that.
it in the past, I don't know
We
if
have.
now.
Right. And we'll look at that when we see the libraries. But it's the average of the past 3 years. And since the revolving funds are included in that formula, we haven't had any difficulty recently. So, well, this is great. Thank you for keeping us all up and running and coming in tonight.
Well, I appreciate you having me here and your support as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. Oh, great. So next up tonight, we have Parks and Recreation. We have our director, Dave Perdios, and Tom McCarthy, Commissioner, one of 3. Are you the senior commissioner, or how does it work?
Steve Afanato is the chairman.
Oh, okay, so you do have a chairman, right?
Yeah.
Great. Anyway, well, so let me switch over to your budget. Now, I gotta tell you, when I first looked at your budget, I thought you had screwed up on the one-time funds for the park and not backed, for the trailer, and hadn't backed them out, but you had, so you're fine. And it's a pretty straightforward budget, and we'll get to it. Okay. Next department. All right. Now, I guess the major thing that differentiates your department from most others is the size of the revolving funds and sort of the non-general fund activity that you have. It's pretty impressive, and sort of doubles the size of your operation if you were just to look at the general fund. Your budget's about 400,000 or a little bit more. Obviously, you wouldn't mind if it was higher, but the other side of the coin, the non-general fund, is you're bringing in, through the revolving fund and gift accounts, you're bringing in $500,000, and so that's shows an awful lot of activity, and I think maybe you should tell us about some of this stuff, because the only detail we get here just says recreation revolving, revenue 400,000, expended 423, and I think a lot of people have no clue that involves 23 more employees and that you have to manage and these programs, and a lot of the attendant expenses that come with trying to maintain the grounds to support those programs. But I don't know, why don't you tell us about it?
Well, we're a parks and recreation, so I like to say we're 2 departments.
Okay.
The revolving accounts that are up there, the rec revolving account, pretty much fully funds our recreation side. It's there's $0 from the tax levy that funds, other than salary and wages, which just goes back and forth. So, basically what we've done is we've taken the recreation program, it's all fee-based. We budgeted out each program, see what it's gonna cost us to run, and that's how we arrive at a fee. We run programs throughout the year, anywhere from kindergarten programs up to adult programs. Could be basketball, could be tennis, We do special needs programs. We run a major program in the summer up at Cunningham Park, where we have roughly 200, average of 250 kids on a yearly basis, ages 7 to 13. We're in the process right now. We just started this past week in our ski program up the street. Have about 280 kids from the town participating in that program, a big solid program, and that ages all over. We do a little snowboarding there also. So it's a very wide-ranging recreation program that we offer. In the past few years, we've tried to streamline the department. We have online registration now that has made our job a lot easier, more accountable. We know where our dollars are coming from and going a little bit better now. And we're always looking for other ways to do that. So we're probably, in my estimation, 80% of our office time and our time is spent on recreation. You know, our man hours that in the office and managing it, whereas probably 20%, at least from an office standpoint, and us managing the outside, it's pretty much me with my laborers. In an employment type of thing, we employ 100 plus individuals on a yearly basis. The summer program, for instance, is at Cunningham Park. We have roughly 20 to 25. That's ranging from adult supervisors down to high school kids who work as staff the 8-9 weeks that we're there, 35 hours a week. We bring in someone in the office to help out at the office in the summer, because that's where pretty much everybody's out. We also have sports camps, so you're looking at another 6, 7, 8, 9 kids. That's just in that one time frame. The basketball program, you know, during the winters, like right now, we have 2 programs being run at the same time. We have a instruction program for kindergarten and first grade. That's on, we're using 3 gyms on Friday nights. We have to fully staff that, 7 or 8 kids at each gym. And then on the weekends, we're up at the high school on Saturdays and Sundays. So we employ a lot of the youth. We try to get them in and hang on to them. So we're right, from a recreation standpoint, it's a big operation. We're always looking to run new programs. Sometimes the facilities that are available in town restrict us. We would like to do more in the gyms, but there's no space, there's no time, which is fine. We get our fair share. We've thought about flag football, things like that, but we also work real close with the youth programs in town. We don't direct them. We don't, but we permit the fields and we work very closely with them, not only on an everyday basis, but with the MySAC program, it's Milton Youth Sports Advisory Committee. And that's funds that we receive from each league for every registration, and the funds that they give us on a yearly basis, we pick a project out with their cooperation each year, 1 or 2 field projects. And we expend the money to fix things. For instance, I think it was August, we did Shields over.
August, yep, Shields.
Shields Playground, the park itself, the baseball, softball field, had been neglected for a lot of years.
Kelly in the spring.
Yep, so we've done we did both of those fields, put some money into both of those, heavy money. We have up to $28,000 to $30,000 a year that comes in through that group. And our commitment, that started back in 2000, and our commitment to them was that, you know, if you're gonna give us this money, we're gonna put it into the fields for safety and upkeep. It was born out of the realization that the capital money was just not there. We weren't getting the money to fix the fields. And we were charging $1,000 a league, so we went from $5,000 to $30,000. And we've spent over $500,000 on capital projects since 2001. That is all non-tax levied money.
That's impressive. I mean, if we look at this list of accounts here, you have an Andrews Park gift, you have Crane Park gift, you have a Gile Road Field gift, Kelly Field gift, special needs gift, Turner's Pond gift. I mean, there's just a lot of gifts. And it speaks to the generosity of people in town to maintain these parks. And obviously, you couldn't do it without those gift accounts. And those, the Gile Road, you just took in 10,000 on that this year. And the Crane Park is a new one. That's your neighborhood, right, Mike?
Right.
Is that your neighborhood association? Put that together?
We gave a smaller amount of money, and the Rotary Club is holding it. It doesn't come up to $10,000.
That's from Copeland, right?
Right.
Copeland came.
For trees and stuff. That money's actually already spoken for trees and other things down the road. And actually, I think we're waiting for the bill, if
Yes,
I'm not
we are.
mistaken. We're
The
waiting
trees
for-
have already been planted.
Yeah,
The bill is slow coming, huh?
I'm not complaining.
So I think, yeah, I mean, this is a huge part of your operation, obviously, and it's financed by, I mean, the fees primarily, but you mentioned to me that it's volatile, and you know, if you don't have the same number of kids year in, year out, then you can't really depend on it, and it'd be a problem. And I'm not sure how you deal with it, but